Hey, what's going on, you guys? Like I said last time, I was gonna get this one, so now we're getting this. So this is going to be my review of the DC Mcfarlane Multiverse Collection Edition Hawk Hawk. I don't want to be saying the wrong thing. Hawk girl. Um, Hawk girl. I don't know why I always felt like I had a weird thing whenever I said. Anyway, not important to this discussion. So you have the typical version, but I did get the platinum version, and I will explain why. On the back, you got a picture of said character. Side, you got a window. Side, you got her name and Justice League of America. We will get it all into here in a second. Well, let's take a look at her accessories. We'll, of course, take a look at the boring ones first. You have a stand. And you know it's collector's edition because it's got the silver DC logo. I don't know why they didn't give her a flight stand. That's like one of my complaints about this one. And I think, same with Hawkman, I don't think he got a flight stand. If he did, I'm misremembering, but I feel like that could have, like, if you're making a collector's edition, I feel like that would be the thing that you could throw in at least. So here's this. On the back, it has real name Kendra Saunders, debut JSA Secret Files. Using the power of nth metal, Kendra Saunders is Hawkgirl, one of the Justice League's newer recruits, having no trouble standing shoulder to shoulder with giants. Hawkgirl's fighting spirit and determination has made her feared throughout the galaxy. Now, while the standard version is supposed to be Kendra Saunders, the platinum version is not, which is why I got her, but we'll get here in a second because they do come with the same accessories, of course. She comes with these splayed out hands, which are neat. You got this alternative gripping hand, or trigger finger hand, really, and then and a singular fist. Actually, no, she comes with another fist. But then her most obviously famous one is her mace, which is actually different from the Hawkman that I have, because his mace actually has spikes on the end of it, where hers is more just flattened out, which I think is, in my opinion, maybe a little bit more like aggressive, because instead of getting hit with something sharp that could, I guess, do things quicker, not to get into detail here, this one feels a lot more brutal to me. I don't know why. Anyway, not important, not to get into that. But here is, and in the packaging, she comes with a right gripping hand and a left fist. So you have 3 sets of hands. But here she is. I have not stood her up yet, so this is going to be an interesting experience. I gotta spoil some articulation here, but like I said, I have not stood her up yet, so hopefully... Oh, her wings are going to be a problem. Okay. Go on. Let's see if I can get you to balance. Okay, so I'll hold her. I'm not going to fight with it. So this version does look different than the version on the card, but in this case, it's not because Mcfarlane chose the wrong image. It's because this is supposed to be Sierra Hall Hawkgirl instead of Kendra Saunders. At least that's what I've been told. Now, that is the Hawkgirl I am more familiar with. Not that it really matters to me which one you have. I think they will look fine next to your Hawkman. I don't really know a whole lot of the differences between the two. I don't know how they're viewed, with especially with their relation to Hawkman. And they're their own character, but I obviously they have a strong connection to Hawkman for many reasons. One of which being a love interest, and one of which being like a partner in heroism. I don't know too much of the difference though, like how that all works. I am more, or at least I believe I am more familiar with Sierra Hall because, I've read some stuff with Hawkman, and obviously his real name is Carter Hall, and so that's what I assume is my main Hawk girl. So this is the version I got. If someone has more knowledge on me with like the Kendra Saunders versus Sierra Hall, please let me know, because I'm kind of unfamiliar with like the difference. I mean, like I feel like the powers and stuff are pretty much the same, but like the personal story and stuff like that, I'm not so sure. But anyways, enough rambling. Let's take a look at her. So the obviously the biggest difference between her and Hawkman is her wings. Of course, you will see a comparison later. Now, Hawkman's wings could actually rotate up and down. These can't, because of how they are placed in there, like what they're connected to. But they can go, in and out, or backwards and forwards. And then they act. But one thing that is considered superior to Hawkman is she can actually have her wings folded out in a more like dynamic way, whereas his is kind of like out, but they're not really in like a dynamic way necessarily. I still think they're fine, but yeah, there's a difference anyway. And obviously many of you are familiar with this version of Hawkgirl, because I do believe this was the version that appeared in the Justice League cartoon from the 90s. Now, I am familiar with that cartoon because as a kid who grew up on YouTube and stuff like that, you would see clips of that. I do actually remember watching a few of the episodes at some point, and she was an interesting character. I do want to mention a quick side note, though, because it is something that a lot of people are familiar with. In that series, she has a love interest with Jon Stewart. As far as I know, that is not a comic thing. I think they've recently are starting to do that to appease that fan base, but I don't know. I'm not against the relationship or anything. I want to make that clear. I just, I think to lead like somebody, like in terms of believing like the wrong thing about the source material, I think is not a good thing. It's like I'm trying to think of like another relationship here. I'm just gonna make up one. Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter. They could theoretically write a good relationship for them, but I don't want But you also don't want to mislead them into thinking that's how it is in the comics, because then. But you know what? Actually, scratch that. That might make things more interesting for someone. Scratch that. Get all that negativity out there. We don't need that negativity. So, negativity. So, but sorry about my rambles. I don't know why I'm rambling so much. If you like that relationship, cool. I've got no problem with it. Is what I'm trying to say. I'm just not familiar with it myself because it's not. I didn't grow up on that. I grew up on Young Justice, who, showed a little bit of the Justice League and JSA, but not a lot, because obviously it was about the teen heroes and the younger heroes. So anyway, moving on. So obviously you got the cowl, which looks like a hawk. I always knew it looked like a hawk, but now actually looking at it, I can actually see the shape of a hawk's head. And I'm assuming this is part of the cowl, because I don't think that's her actual hair. No, that's not her actual hair. That's just a part of the cowl. I was about to say, I don't think I don't think her hair is like that. But the head looks good. It looks like Hawkgirl. Then you got the yellows. There's some detail, a little bit. You got some line work here and there. And I think these patches here on the side of the chest are where Kendra has green. So, other than that, I don't know. And then I think the crotch area here is yellow and green, not red, as far as I can tell from the picture. I really need to stop rambling and actually just show the action figure. That's what you guys are here for. Not my commentary, which sometimes doesn't have any base because I don't actually know what I'm talking about. I love, to me personally, as a side note, both Hawkgirl and Hawkman have a special place in my heart, because for some reason I've always liked them since I was a kid. I thought they were just really cool. I did get one comic of Hawkman, which is by Vendetti. I've yet to finish that series, and it's becoming harder and harder to find that series. So we got the belt with the little hawk symbol. Isn't that a symbol of like at some, I know they've had different iterations. I know at some point they were like people who could reincarnate. I know that they might have been space cops. So don't come at me. I know they've had like a long and troubled different explanations of their past. And you got these little gauntlets here with the silver up top. On the back, there's not really much to see. And then you actually do have some texturing here on the boots, and you got some yellow and some green. I mean, that's pretty basic. It's Hawkgirl. But I will say, the wings are nicely shaded. I think they're shaded on both sides. Yeah, they're actually shaded on both sides. So that is really awesome. So, but it's time for articulation. I don't know if you could take these wings off. I'm not going to try to. Her head can look up that far, and that's good for a flying pose. And then, of course, you can combine it a little bit with the body movement there. She can look down. She can look side to side. Head tilts. And then she's got the usual dumbbell joint. On her, it does look a little weird some points because it looks like there's like a whole chunk of her like flesh missing or something. But her arms can go out, go in, and they could rotate all the way if the wings weren't there. But to be fair, real life human beings can't rotate their arms all the way around without breaking something. She's got bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, wrist swivel, and a hinge. So you can pose it whatever. She's got an upper dumbbell joint and a lower dumbbell joint that allows her to crunch that far forward, that far back, side to side, and it should have, it does have rotation. Her legs can kick up about that far. They kick back about that far. Okay, the wings are kind of getting in the way. Kick out that far. They don't really have any rotation at the thigh there. Got double jointed knees. Foot ankle. So her foot articulation goes down, goes up, swivel side to side, and ankle pivot. So. Come to think of it, I don't know how many female characters I have for DC. I do plan on getting a different Wonder Woman just because there's better Wonder Woman figures by Mcfarlane now out there. Now this is going to be the tricky part because she's got wings and she's not really standing right now. So maybe I'm going to have to use that trusty stand. There are not actually bad stands, but they're not like necessarily the best either. See if I can get her on the stand. And then I will get her mace. And I do recommend that with the mace, you slide the mace through. That's a good pose. Oh, I just realized that I was kind of putting you guys upwards. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I once again do apologize for some of my rambling because I have no idea what I'm talking about sometimes. So, please know that it's all with, good intentions and everything like that. So, the most obvious comparison I have to do, although it's going to be really hard to fit him in frame, is Hawkman. That's about as best as you're going to get. So, I do believe he does stand a little taller than her. I just have his legs spread apart right now. But, man, can I not get him in the same shot? Let's see if I can get, even if I just have to, lift you guys up, if I can do that. Or that can happen, because he does that. Both times I've had him for comparisons, he does that. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can just... Come on now. Let's see. So there you go. Sorry that I have to do this in order to get them both in frame, but here we go. So there's Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Now the side note is, I've always viewed Hawkman as more of a JSA type and Hawkgirl as more of a Justice League type. But they've been a part of both, if I'm not mistaken, or at least I've seen iterations where they've been a part of both. So I don't really have a whole lot of the members down here right now. We'll actually have a lot of members for the Justice League. So hold on. So I will do one right here that's actually sitting right next to me. He will stand. Very different in color appearance. You know, you got Batman and Hawkgirl, which their colors are very different on their costumes, so that's kind of funny. Let's see, who else do I have that's easy enough to grab? You know what? I guess for the representation of one of the versions that people are familiar with, I'll get someone else here. When's the last time you seen that handsome face on this channel? Probably not since I reviewed him, which was now years ago. But there you go. I do apologize. He's not standing full up because I don't want to change his pose because I got a good pose for him right now. But yeah, so, you know, they look good together. So if that's what your preference is, then they look awesome. So, and also if it's just like, even if that's not necessarily your preference, if it's just like you want her with the Justice League, there you go. And I will do one more comparison here of the most recently reviewed action figure. And I feel like it just worked because there is obviously that little bit of reference there. Here is Mr. Terrific. She is very much taller than him. So, man, this video's gone on for a while. So, but yeah, you know, because obviously they've both appeared in the Superman movie. So I can make that a little bit of comparison there. So yeah. But anyways, because this video has gone on for long enough, and I am tired, I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think of the action figure here. Let me know what you think of the characters. Let me know what version of the character you're familiar with. And like I said, if anybody can provide me more information on the differences between Shira Hall and Kendra Saunders, that would be great. I don't know a whole lot of difference between the two. You know, if one of them appeared in a cartoon, I probably wouldn't tell the difference, to be honest with you. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe, as said before, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.